Hey guys, in this video, I'll show you how to build a no-code AI agent that can instantly scrape any website, any social media platform with just a single message to Slack. This type of agent can be used for lead generation, market research, or competitor analysis. Essentially, the use cases are limitless. For this video, I'll be breaking down for you a competitor analysis agent that's capable of scraping the competitor's websites, news, resources, also any social media platforms, and also performing vision-based scraping to analyze their branding. I'll first start off by giving you a quick demo of the agent. And then finally, I'll walk you through step-by-step how you can build this AI agent team for yourself. And then finally, I'll show you the complete process step-by-step on how you can get your agent. And also, if you stick around right to the end, I'll show you how to integrate the agent team into Slack. And if you just want to follow along, don't worry, I've got a template of this build in my AI knowledge base, which you can access using the link in the description below. If you don't know me, my name is Yash, and I've been implementing AI solutions for businesses for the past 6 months. My AI knowledge base community has grown to more than 100 members who are using these templates and agents in their own businesses. All right, let's hop in and have a look at a demo. Now I'm going to show you a demo of how the competitor agent works. To start off, we need to tag the agent and send it a message. So in this scenario, I wanted to competitor analysis on the company. I'm going to pick Salesforce. I'm going to ask it, can you please perform competitor analysis on Salesforce for the last month? And let's hit enter. So now this message has gone off to Relevance AI and the agent is working in the background. I'm going to come back to this because it does take a bit of time for this analysis to run. So I'll be back with you once the agent has finished completing its work. All right, I'm back and our AI agent is done with its analysis. The agent responds back to Slack with a whole bunch of links based on the competitor analysis that it's done. And the analysis is broken up into 2 steps. One is the social media analysis reports, and the other one is the general web scraping analysis. So if we have a look at the analysis report for LinkedIn, here you can see we've got a full in-depth report on LinkedIn's posts and the strategy that they've used. If I now open up the Google competitor analysis report, it's an in-depth analysis on Salesforce's YouTube channel. And similarly, if we have a look at the general analysis reports for the websites, we've got a website analysis report here, which has scraped the Salesforce website and had a look at its content strategy, its SEO strategy, and an in-depth analysis around that. And similarly, if we look at the last one, which is the vision-based scraping, this agent has produced an in-depth report on the visual aspects of the Salesforce website in terms of what their visual identity looks like, the imagery, the layout, and the user experience. So as you can see, these reports are very in-depth, and this can serve as powerful information for you in terms of competitor analysis. With that in mind, now let's have a look at the AI agent architecture and how this whole team is set up. Here I've laid out a high-level architecture view of our competitor analysis agent team. The agent is kicked off when you send a message to Slack. So that Slack message is then sent to a competitor analysis manager. I've got a manager coordinating a team of 2 sub-agents. So the manager will receive the message and then send that message off to its sub-agents to do the work. So we've got 2 sub-agents here. The first one is the social media scraper agent. This is the agent that's going to be looking at all of the social media channels, so Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's going to do the scraping on all of that, and then it's going to produce the reports for those channels. And then the second sub-agent that we have is the general web scraper. So this is the web scraper that's going to look at the competitor's website. It's going to look at reviews. It's going to look at the news. And it's also going to perform vision-based scraping. And what I mean by vision-based scraping is it's going to physically have a look at the website and then see how are the elements set up? What does the color palette look like? What's sort of the visual aesthetic? And it's going to then create reports on all of these elements. It's going to send all of those. So both of these agents then are going to send that report back to the competitor analysis manager. The manager then collates all of those reports and prepares a Slack message. And then that Slack message comes back to you through the channel that you've chosen. So it's a fairly simple but effective build, and it does all of the processing in the background. So you send the agent a message, you get responded back with a message with all of the links. So it's very easy and very low effort from your part. One thing that I wanted to touch on was, in this example, I've used a competitor analysis as the use case. This use case can be expanded to lead generation. In that sort of case, you would have multiple different sub-agents who are scraping different platforms and are providing your ideal customer profile or it could be applied to research where you could have multiple different sub agents who are researching different aspects or different angles of your story or whatever it is that you're trying to research. And then in a similar setup, you could have a message that goes into Slack, and then you have an output that gets sent back to Slack. So there are virtually a lot of different use cases that you can apply this similar concept to. I now want to show you step by step how I've built the system, and I'm going to be starting off with how to set up the competitor analysis manager. All right, now we're in my Relevance AI dashboard, and now I'm going to take some time to explain to you how I've built out the manager agent. So the key components of the manager agent that I'm looking to cover is first the prompt itself, which is a very important aspect of the agent. I'm also going to show you how I've connected my sub agents, my sub scraper agents to this manager agent, and what are sort of some of the tools that have been connected to make the system work. So let's start off with the agent prompt first. So as you will see here, I've got the prompt split up into different sections. So I've got role, objective, context, you've got your standard operating procedure, and you've got a few examples. This is a type of prompt that you'll see very common with a lot of agents nowadays, because we've found that this sort of format works best. So role is usually giving the agent an identity and giving it explanation in terms of what it's doing. Objective then talks about what are sort of those key tasks that it needs to achieve, or what are the key outcomes. In this case, the manager agent needs to do competitive research. It also knows that it's got a team of sub agents to help it out. And then once it's done with that report, it will send it back to the human using this tool here called send message to Slack. And I'll be covering that in a bit more detail in terms of how you set it up. Context is also important to the agent. You can think of it as sort of motivation in terms of what it needs to do and why. Then standard operating procedure, I think that's fairly straightforward. So this is where you'll probably have your big chunk of instructions. So usually the way I like to split it up is in two parts. So the first part of your standard operating procedures is the high level steps or the high level workflow that you want the agent to work through. So in this case, what we want the agent to do is we want the agent to get the current date. I've got a current date tool here, which I'll show you in a bit more detail. But the reason why we're getting the current date is when we're doing our research, you may have noticed in the example that I've said, do competitor research for me for the past month, or I can say for the past week or whatnot. So it needs to understand the perception of time. We first need to get a current date, and then it can go back in time by, a month or a date, whatever I mentioned, and do that research. We're going to say we will give you a list of companies to research, and also you'll be given the time frame. Then we've made mention of what are the sub agents that are available. In this case, we've got the social media scraper agent and the general web scraper. And you need to make sure that you provide them detailed instructions and also provide them a time frame. So this point here is telling them how the manager agent needs to instruct the sub agents to help them out. And then finally, the manager agent will receive the reports from the sub agents and send them back to Slack using the tool. So that's the first part. So that's your high level instructions. And the second part is mentioning what are the tools and sub agents that you have. So this is the section where you can go in a bit more detail in terms of what the tool does. And this is how the agent understands how to use the tool. So you don't need to give instructions on how the tool needs to be used in this high level steps. You can keep those more, I guess, broad. But then when we get to the tools and sub agents bit, this is where you can tell the agent how to exactly use the tool. So in this case, the get current date tool, it gets the date. The Slack tool sends the message. Then here we've got a bit more description about the social media scraper agent, where it's going to be scraping Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube for the competitor reports. Similar with the web scraper agent, it's scraping websites, it's scraping reviews, it's doing the news, it's doing a visual analysis of the competitor, and it's going to send back those links to the manager agent. And lastly, it's always a really good idea to have an example. And by example, what I mean is, what's the order in that you want the agent to perform all of your tasks? Because it's good that you've provided standard operating procedure here in terms of how and what the broad steps you want the agent to take. But when you give it an example, there's less likely for failure and you get more predictable results. And one of the key challenges of most agents is predictability and getting them to work in a repetitive fashion. So use of examples becomes really important, and it provides structure and, I guess, guardrails. You can, if that's a good way of putting it, it provides it guardrails in terms of the behavior that you want it to take. The large language model, I'm just using 4.0 Mini. I found this works really well if your prompt is well structured. You've got clear instructions. You don't really need 4.0 because I personally think 4.0 is quite token heavy. You can get the same amount of results in 4.0 Mini. I've built a few agents for clients where, I use 4.0 Mini regularly, and as long as your prompt structure and your instructions are clear, you can pretty much get away with this, unless you've got a task where you need intense thinking or you've got a very complicated set of instructions. That is when I would recommend that you use 4.0. Otherwise, 4.0 Mini works just as well. I'm now going to go over to the tools section to show you some of the tools that I've attached to this agent. So I've got the get current date here. So the get current date tool, this is a very simple tool. We've just got a bit of code here, which you can just copy straight away. This does not need to change or will not need to change. This is just getting the date, and then we're returning the current date. And this is then sent back to the agent. The second tool that's connected to our manager agent is a send message to Slack. This tool takes in a text input. So this text input will have all of our final report with the links, as you saw in the demo, and this will be sent to Slack. So I've just got a Slack module here where I've connected my Slack channel to Relevance AI, and we just send our report as a message. I'll be covering this more at the end of the video, but I just wanted to take some time to show you what are the tools that were connected to the manager agent. If we now go back to the manager agent interface, we've got this section here called sub agents. And this is a really important section where you need to actually list out what are the sub agents that your manager agent has available. So it's very easy to add a sub agent. All you need to do is just hit add sub agent, and then whatever agent that you have, you just need to click add. I've already got my general web scraper and my social media sub scraper agent added. Just one note, you do need to create these sub agents before you can add them. This interface here does not actually allow you to create sub agents. So they need to be created separately and then added to this interface. And one more important thing that I didn't mention before was when you're doing your prompt, it's really important to add your tools or your sub agents. As you can see, I haven't just written the name of my tool. It's in this little dialog box. And the way you can achieve this is when you're typing out your prompt, you just need to hit slash and then put in your tool or your agent name, and Relevance AI will automatically open up a dialog box. So if I was to show you an example, quickly just do it here. So if I hit slash, and then you get a little dialog box that comes up with tool or variable. So if I want to do my agent, I'm just going to put in social media scraper agent. See, this little dialog box has come up. I can hit this, and now I've got a linkage to my social media sub agent. And this is just a very small thing. I don't think I've seen people explain this, but it just helps the LLM and it just helps the agent understand a bit better in terms of what are the tools and what are the agents that you're referring to. With this done, let's move over to some of the other sub agents. We're now going to have a look at the social media scraper agent. Let's start off by looking at the agent prompt. As explained before, similar style of format in terms of role objective, your context, standard operating procedure. So I'm going to skip over that a little bit. I really want to focus on the standard operating procedure here because that's the most important thing. Here we've told the agent that it's going to receive a time frame in weeks or months, and it's going to get all of the task details from the manager agent. So it's got context that it's going to be receiving information from another agent that it's working for. And what's the type of information that's going to get? It's going to get the company, and it's also going to get what are the social media platform or channels that need to be scraped, which is really important context because our agent can scrape multiple different platforms. Now, if the request that comes in only relates to YouTube or it only relates to Instagram, it's going to know that way. We're going to ask it to get the current date. So it's the tool that I've showed you before, just so it can understand what's the time frame that it's working for. Then get it to analyze the task step by step. If there's no specific channel that's mentioned, scrape all of the social media channels that are available. We tell it what are the tools that it can use to scrape the different social media channels. So we've got LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'll be covering each one of these tools in a bit more detail a bit further on in the video. We give it context that each tool will return a link and a detailed report. for that particular social media channel. And then once it has all of those links, it needs to then send all those links back to the manager agent. Breakdown of the tools, we've got the current date tool, Instagram and YouTube. So each of these tools allow to scrape the platform, generate a competitor insights, and then create a report. And we've just got a couple of examples here. So I've got a first example where I'm asking it to scrape a company across all of the social media channels, so LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube for the past 3 weeks. So in this case, the standard operating procedure would be it's scraping all 3 of those platforms. I've got another use case where I've only asked it to scrape LinkedIn and YouTube. So in this case, it would only use both of those tools. And another important aspect to have at the bottom is your notes section. So you can think about the notes section as sort of like a catch-all or to cover some of those edge cases. Or sometimes it's just important to have some instructions that will give it a bit more motivation. So in this case, I've put in some instructions where it says it's critical for my success that you send all the correct report links to the manager agent and make sure that there's a title describing the link itself. So that instruction is providing some structure to the output message that's going to the manager agent. And also, obviously, the links where that are being generated are one of the most important things here. Now, I want to take you step by step through some of the tools that we've attached to our social media scraper agent. I'm going to start off by looking at the Instagram scraping tool. The tool we're using to scrape Instagram, we've got a couple of inputs. We've got the company name. This company name is going to come from the manager that it will send down to the sub agent. And we've also got the current date today, which will be retrieved from the tool. So the first thing that we're doing here is we're doing a Google search for the company name and Instagram. This is to get the Instagram handle for the company that we're researching. I've run an example of this tool just to show you what are some of the outputs that come out at each step, and that will just help you better follow this example. So I've taken Salesforce, the same example that we used in at the start of the video. So this is the sort of data that gets, you have a lot of the different links that you get back from a Google search. And this is quite expansive. This gives you back essentially like an array, a list. We've then got an LLM step where we're taking all of that output and we need to find the Instagram handle for the company that we're researching. So we've just got a little prompt and saying it begins with @ and we've just given a couple of examples in terms of HubSpot and LinkedIn. So from that, we get the answer as @Salesforce. That's the handle for the company that we're looking for. Then we've got an Appify module, which performs the scraping. Now, I just want to spend a couple of minutes just explaining what Appify is. Appify is a platform that allows you to perform scraping or using different platforms or just the web in general. There's a couple of ways that you can perform scraping. There's a tool called Phantom Buster that you can also use. There's Appify, and I'm sure there's other tools on the market as well. But these are sort of the 2 main common tools that I've come across. I've seen people use Phantom Buster before, and it's quite good. It allows you to scrape a variety of different social media platforms or even the web. You do have to pay, I think it is a $29 subscription fee per month to scrape it. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead with Appify because I personally think they've got different actors or different tools that you can use to scrape the web, and it's just free to get started. You don't have to pay any money. And the other thing with Phantom Buster is you need to have a separate make.com flow in order to do the scraping, to send these results to make.com, do the scraping, and then bring it back. It is a bit difficult to integrate Phantom Buster into Relevance AI. So I think Appify just simplifies this process down a bit more. And the less complicated your agent flow is, the more easier it is to maintain it going forwards. So we're here in my Appify account. And this is the actor that I'm using to do the scraping from Instagram. You can search it by this little handle that it has once you create an Appify account. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you how you can connect your Appify account to Relevance AI, and it's quite simple. So what you need to do is you need to go into settings, and wait for this to load, go into API and integrations, and here you'll have API tokens. So you'll get a default API token when you've signed up to your account. I would suggest creating a new API token every time you're connecting it to a new application. It's, from a security perspective, it's not good to use the same token everywhere. So you can just hit create new token. You'll get a new token. I've named mine Relevance AI. you'll see a little dialog box for Apify API key. You just need to put your API key in there, and that's it. Apify and Relevance AI have been connected up. It's as easy as that. So if we go back to our tool and have a look at the Apify module, there's a few things you need to fill in. There's the input settings. This is how you tell Apify what exactly it is that you want to scrape. If we go back to Apify, this is the actor that I'm using, the Instagram post scraper. You've got a little handle here, Apify/Instagram post scraper. If I, oops, wrong one. I can go back to my Relevance AI tool and I post it in the name. It's going to show you how you can use, what are the inputs to this tool. So in this case, if you want to trigger the actor from the Apify platform itself, you just need to provide a username, how many posts you want. Obviously, we don't want to do it through the platform. We want to trigger it through Relevance AI. So you need to hit on this JSON tab here, and this shows you what's the format of the input that you need to use. So I've copied that across, and we're using, for the sake of this example, I'm only using 10 results, skipping the pinned post. And then for username, we're going to import our Instagram handle that we've gotten from above. Once you've done that, you just need to you can just hit run. And then the items, that's pretty much what comes back from Apify. So you've got a whole bunch of posts here, and there's a whole heap of data. As you can see, you've got a whole bunch of lists that are coming back. Out of that list, I'm just going to flatten the list here. That's what I've done. Essentially, what that means is instead of you having multiple lists, you just get back one list. So this is a bit of data manipulation. And then from that list, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to extract components that I actually care about. So there's a whole bunch of data that comes through from Apify. Out of that, we really only care about captions. I want to get the comments, how many likes, and what's the timestamp. So then that pretty much neatly just formats all that data for me. And it just, instead of having, 1,000 different fields, I've only got 4 different fields that I really care about. So then my next part is then actually doing the analysis based on the results that I've scraped. So I've just got a prompt here, which takes the company name and all of the Instagram elements that I've scraped. So that's the comments, captions, likes, and the time frame. And I'm using that to analyze a few different elements. So I'm looking at the content strategy. What is the audience engagement, hashtag SEO, strengths and weaknesses? What are the actionable insights? And then it spits out for me a report with using those elements. Once I've got the report, what I need to do is I can't just create a Google Docs link just like that. I need to do a bit of formatting because, and I'm going to be using make.com to create that Google document link, which I'll show you very shortly. But before we do that, we actually need to format that plain text into a HTML format, because that's how we can put in our headings. We can put in like your dot points, your spaces, and all that. If we were to just return this as plain text into the Google document, it will look really bad. So we've just got a prompt here, which is asking our output, the Instagram report, to do a HTML format for Google Documents. And we're just saying, make sure the format is clean, and you'll get an output with a whole bunch of HTML. And if you know how to read HTML, it'll make sense to you. But essentially, this is just formatting it in a much better way. And then we've got an API, a block here, which is sending that formatted HTML text to make.com. And we're sending in a title, and we're sending in the report, which is the report content. And then make.com sends us back a Google Documents link. And if I'm to click on this link, and I'll show you what the report looks like. So as you can see, we've got the name of the company, we've got the Instagram report, and we've got the different sections and the analysis of the report itself. So we now jump into make.com. I just want to show you how that final API block in Relevance AI connects to Make and then returns a result. So it all starts off with a webhook. So I've called this webhook Google Docs, and this link here that we've got from Make, and take it back to your tool in Relevance AI. So this is what I put in the URL. So this is the same exact link from make.com. One of the things to take account of is the method that we're using here. Is a post method is usually used when you want to send things to a particular endpoint. So that's the link. Then in terms of Google, we've got a Google Docs module, which is creating a document. I've got my Google account linked to make.com. And in terms of the information that's coming through, I've got the title and I've got the report. So that's the information that I'm sending over from Relevance AI. And then I've got a webhook here again, which is a webhook response. So all I'm doing is from the Google Documents module, I've got a whole bunch of these outputs that I've got. So what I'm returning from here is the web view link. And essentially what that web view link is that Google document link, which allows me to click on that and open up the document. So fairly simple flow. This will all be provided in my AI Knowledge Hub, so you can download this and get this working for yourself. So then if we go back to Relevance AI, that's how we end up getting the response link here. Now let's have a look at the couple of the other tools that are attached to the social media scraper. Let's have a look at the scrape LinkedIn tool. Similar to the Instagram tool, we've got two inputs, which is the company name and the date. This one also starts off similar in terms of a Google search. However, in this case, we're trying to find the LinkedIn. We're trying to find the LinkedIn link for the company itself, and we get a whole bunch of data that's back. We've then got another LLM post, which is looking through that Google data that's been returned, and we want to extract the LinkedIn URL in this case. So in the case of LinkedIn, for the company, it's going to have a /company in the URL, and that's how we get back the company URL for Salesforce. Now, Relevance AI actually has a built-in LinkedIn scraper that we can use, and I think it's quite fantastic. So you can use that scraper. All you need to put in is the LinkedIn URL and the method. You've got a couple of different things you can scrape. You can actually get user scraping, so some of the posts or profiles, or you can get the company posts or profiles. In this case, we're going to do company. We're going to get the company posts for this particular company because we want to analyze the LinkedIn strategy around that. If I click on data, there's a whole bunch of data that gets returned for the different posts that we have here. So there's a whole heap of data. Once we've got all the LinkedIn data, I've got a Python code script that's running here. I know this looks very complicated and you won't need to change any of this to get yours running, but essentially what it's doing is it's just getting the latest 5 posts. And because of the way the LinkedIn data is structured, it is a bit more complicated. So what you need to do is you need to loop through all of that, and only essentially we're making sure that it's sorted in a way that we've got the most recent post, and then we're only getting the most recent posts because obviously Relevance doesn't actually allow us to put in like a time frame. So we need to manually do this by using the script, and we get all of the recent posts. And for the sake of this example, I've only limited it to the 5 posts. And then we're selecting what are the outputs that we want. So in this case, we're getting the time and we're getting the caption for the post itself, because that's what we want to be analyzing. So then we go down and we've got another LLM block here, which is doing the actual analysis. So we're giving it the outputs from the scraping exercise, and we're just asking it to summarize what's the summary of the company, identify some posts, and what are some of the opportunities. So similar, you get a report out here for LinkedIn, and it's looking at some of those posts. And you can obviously, for the sake of this example, I've only chosen to include 5 posts, but you can have as many posts as you want from the data that you get from the scraper. Similar to before, once we've got the report, we need to format it in a HTML format for Google Docs. And then again, we've got an API block here, which goes off to make. It's the same exact flow that I covered before. You don't need to create a new flow every time you want to create a document, and that's the beauty of it. You can just send in a different title. So in this case, obviously you'd have your company name, but instead of calling it Instagram report, I've called in the LinkedIn report, provide the date, and obviously your HTML formatted report, and you get back a link. So as you can see, this is the LinkedIn report link that I've just clicked before. Here's your report and your opportunities and everything. So it's formatted perfectly and the report is created. Let's have a look at how we can now scrape YouTube. And I want to spend some time going through that tool. Got my scrape YouTube tool here. Company name and current date are yet again the inputs. We're starting off by trying to find the YouTube handle. So we're to do a Google search for Salesforce, and we find a whole bunch of links. Another LLM step to find the YouTube URL that's most likely to be Salesforce, and then we get an output here for that. We have another Appify module here. And in this case, if I go back to my account, just to show you which exact scraper I'm using, it's called Fast YouTube Channel Scraper, streamers / YouTube channel. So you can just copy that and bring it across. If I show you what sort of the input JSON that we're using, you can define how many results you want and the URL of the actual channel itself, and it's got a little method here, which is get. Pretty much just means you're making an API request to get the results. So we copy that across. I'm just limiting it to 5, and in the URL here, I've got my YouTube channel name. So that's the URL that I got from the search above. Once you hit run, you're going to get a whole bunch of data again. There's a fair bit here to get through. Again, because it's multiple lists that gets returned, I use the relevance AI function to flatten it, and then I'm mapping out specific fields from that which I want. So in this case, I want the title, I want the date, the duration, and the view count. And I guess you can expand this to actually have the transcriptions of the video as well. That would be a bit more of a complicated build, but if I was to expand this tool further, I would have another tool which scrapes the video, it scrapes the transcription, and it does the analysis on the transcription itself to understand what's the type of content that's been put out by competitors. And this could be a really good way to, instead of trying to sit there and study different videos and what are your competitors saying, you have an agent or you have a tool that just scrapes the videos, it scrapes the transcripts, it does the analysis, and it returns it back to you. So that's one way that I personally would improve on this. But for the sake of this example, we've got the title, the duration, and the view count, and the date. So it returns all of this to me neatly in an array. And now here we've got our analysis step where we're feeding it the company name, similar to before. We're feeding it the extracted elements. And here I want to look at the content strategy. What is their audience engagement, SEOs, strengths, weaknesses? It spits out a report for me. We're going to do some formatting of it to the Google Documents format, some HTML formatting. And then lastly, we've got an API block, which sends it off to that make flow. And in the title, I've got my YouTube report and I'm passing my YouTube report HTML. So very, very standard format that's been adopted here. And if I show you the Google document for YouTube, this is what it looks like. Might just zoom in a little bit more. We've got the content strategy, we've got audience engagement, SEO, strengths, weaknesses, actionable insights. This is the link. I now want to transition over to the general web scraping agent. So first I'm going to cover what the manager agent is set up like, the prompt, what are the tools, and then I'm going to individually dive into the tools and how they're set up. Now I'm going to walk you through the general web scraper agent. So just as a reminder, this web scraper agent is able to perform scraping on general websites, news, reviews, and also perform vision-based scraping. And I'm going to break that down into easy to follow steps in terms of how you do it. But before we do that, I want to take a bit of time to go through the agent's prompt. So similar to the social media agent that we had, this also follows a very similar format in terms of the role and the objective. Here, the objective is to scrape websites, news, and perform vision-based scraping. Standard operating procedures are fairly similar as well. So first, we start off by getting the task from the analysis manager agent. We then get the time and get the current date to understand what the current date is and to work out the time frame. We then analyze the tasks, and if websites, reviews, or news or vision-based scraping needs to be done. We then have a bunch of tools here, which are the website, news, review, and vision-based scraper. Coming down to the section, this one's where we'll be having a look at the tools. So you've got the current date, website, news, review, and vision-based scraper tools. And again, we've got an example here in terms of which is the order that we would want to use these tools in. So fairly straightforward and very similar to what we've been seeing so far in terms of the formats that we've used for the other agents as well. Now, what I really want to dive into are the tools. So let's start off with the website scraper. So the website scraper tool has two inputs, very similar to the other tools. We've got the company name and the current date. Then we do a Google search for the company name. This is to find the website URL. We've got a whole bunch of results. So we put them into the LLM, ask it to analyze the results and find the URL for the company name. So now here, there's a couple of options that you have. You can use Apify and find an actor, which can perform website scraping. In this case, Relevance AI actually has a built-in website scraper. You can use that module. All you need to do is just put in the company name, the company URL, which is what we've got from the step above. And there's a method that you can use to do the scraping. You can do text or you can do HTML as well. And I think Both of them have their uses. In this case, we really just want the text because we want to see what the website copy has been done. What are sort of the elements there? So we get returned a whole bunch of data from the page. We're now then going to feed it into an LLM step where we've got that data and the company name fed in. And we're going to be analyzing, similar to the other aspects as well, the content strategy, the messaging, SEO, all of that sort of stuff. And then we format it into a HTML format. So in this case, I've done both of them in one go. And at the end, we've got another API block which utilizes that same make webflow. We feed in the title and the report, and we get back a link to Google Docs. If I quickly open that up, you can see the report is ready to go. It's all organized, proper headings, proper dot points, proper formatting. Similar to the last time, we're going to have a Google search where we're going to find the company name. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to look for Trustpilot and reviews on that website. So once we get that website URL, pass it through an LLM to get the exact URL from the search results. Similar to how we did the web scraping before, instead of scraping the Salesforce website, we're now going to be scraping the Trustpilot website based on the URL for the Salesforce. So this is going to give us a whole bunch of reviews. Now, there's a few actors on Appify as well that you can use. Personally, I tried using them. They weren't that great. I found this method was a lot better to use. So once you've got all of your reviews scraped, you put that into an LLM, similar to what we've done last time. This time we're looking for sentiment analysis at a key strengths, weaknesses, what's the product performance like? Obviously, because we've got reviews here, and we're just going to be reviewing them based on the current time frame that we've provided. So out we get a competitor analysis report based on the reviews. We transform that into a HTML format, similar to what we've been doing so far, and then pass it through an API block. And we've got a document here. If I open up the document, similar to last time, we've got a proper document ready to go with a comprehensive report. I now want to spend some time to show you how you can perform vision-based scraping. So let's have a look at that tool. So this tool only has one input, which takes in a company name. And what exactly I mean by vision-based scraping is up until now, we've been scraping the text itself to understand what the writing copy looks like, or what are the words or key SEO tags that are being used. In this case, we're going to have a look at the website visually and see what sort of design elements that are being used and what's sort of the aesthetics of the website and how is that used to essentially get customers into the pipeline. Yet again, we start off by finding the URL of the website, do a Google search, and then clean up the search results using the LLM. So we get outputted a final URL for the website. Now, yet again, there's a few different ways of doing this. I think there's a few actors on Appify that can do it. I know Phantom Buster also has a module which can do visual-based scraping. And before I actually go on and explain what I've done here, the process of visual scraping, the way it works is your tool or your agent or whatever it is that you're using, it takes a screenshot of the website. And then that photo is then run through a large language model where it does the analysis. And here we've got a built-in module. I think I've called it Web Vision, but it's a screenshot tool which is built into Relevance. And all you need to do is you need to put in the prompt. So I've put in the prompt here, which is essentially how I want the tool to do the analysis. So I've provided it a company name, I've provided it my URL, and then it outputs me a response based on the analysis that it's done and based on the prompt that I've given it. And similar to last time, we take this whole analysis and we convert it into HTML format, and then we've got a link here ready to go. So if I open up this link, there you go. All of the analysis is there ready to go in terms of actionable insights. What's the layout, imagery, and visual identity look like? With that, that's really the main tools covered. There's one last bit that I'll be covering after this is Now that you've got your agent up and running, it's got all of these different scraper agents and all of the subsequent tools underneath these scraper agents. How is it that you actually connect it back to Slack? And that's a very important segment. So I'll be covering that shortly. I'm now going to show you how you can connect your Slack application to Relevance AI. So the first thing you want to do is log on to api.slack.com and log in and then go to your applications. Once you're in here, you need to create a new application by clicking on this green button. You can choose from a manifest, but I suggest just go from scratch. Put in a name for your application and select whichever workspace you want to put in. Hit create app. I'm not going to do that because I already have my own. So I'm going to then step into my application that I've created. So you're going to then be greeted with a whole bunch of options and different pages. So there's a few pages that you need to be aware of and take special importance. So the first page that you want to go to is OAuth and permissions. Once you're here, you need to go down to redirect URLs and you need to put in these two URLs. So the first one is www.integromat.com CB Slack 2, and then similar one, except it ends in Slack 3. So these are really important as these URLs perform an OAuth request for make.com. And I don't know why they haven't updated their URLs from Integromat, but it still has the old naming convention, but that's fine. The next important step you want to go to is event subscriptions. So this is the page which is going to allow you to send data to make.com and connect it to Relevance AI. So you probably have enable events as off. So first thing you want to do is turn it on. And what you then want to do is you probably don't have a URL here. You go to make.com, you create a custom webhook. So I've already got a webhook here, which is just new. So I'm going to build this from scratch with you. So I'm going to copy the address. I'm going to go back to Slack and I'm going to change this here. So I'm going to put in a new URL. And right now, so it's saying your URL didn't respond with the value of the challenge parameter. So essentially what it's doing is once you put in a new URL, it's going to send some response to your endpoint and it's going to request something back. And that way, this is just to validate that you actually have a valid endpoint and you're not just spamming. That's the objective of this. So what you want to do is once you've entered your URL into the Slack API screen, we go back to make.com and we're just going to run this once. Let's save. Oh, it's got an error. I'm just going to go save anyway. I don't know why it's not liking that. Cancel. I haven't chosen the webhook. So I'm going to hit save on that. I'm going to run this once. And we're going to go back to the Slack screen and I'm going to hit retry. So again, it says didn't respond with the value of the challenger parameter. That's okay. But essentially what we got here is we got the response that's coming through. So you can see you've got a challenger parameter that's come in and you've got a token. So if you have a look in terms of what the response is expected, you need a code and you need to respond back with the challenge parameter. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into make.com and we're going to do a response webhook. And this webhook is going to pass a few different things back. So if we go back to Slack, and what I've done is I've clicked on the learn more button and I just want to walk you through and explain what exactly is happening. Essentially what is it's expecting the challenge parameter back and it's expecting a content type. So we're going to copy this content type, go back to make.com, paste that in. And this is going to be text plain, paste that in. And then in the body section, you just put in the challenge variable and then you hit save. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run this once more, go back to Slack and hit retry. Oh, I think I need to put in, stop that, copy the address, run once, go back to Slack, paste that endpoint in, and there you go. It's verified now because the challenge variable has then been sent back through the body and we've got the custom headers as well. So now this endpoint is verified. So what you now need to do is you can actually get rid of this webhook. You can get rid of this. And then what you need to do is you need to add in a HTTP request, which is going to then help you connect with Relevance AI. I've already got a HTTP module set up, which I'm going to walk you through. So once you've got this, the first thing you want to do is put in your Relevance AI URL. We want to connect Slack to our manager agent. So if we go into the manager agent, go down to agent profile,
and you'll see the API button here. So we need to hit API, and you'll see the endpoint. So you just need to copy that endpoint and go back to make.com and enter it into the URL. The method is going to be post. In terms of the headers, you need content type application JSON, and then a header. The authorization header you get from Relevance AI, you just need to hit generate API key, and that's going to give you an authorization header. In terms of body type, you just click raw and JSON application. And then in the request content, you need to put in the message, so the role user, and then for content, you pass in the event.text. And then in this case, the event.text, that's going to be the message that is going to be sent from Slack. This sort of format you can pick up straight from the Relevance AI request body. So this is essentially the format that you copy. Instead of having hello here, you pass in the message that's coming in from make.com. So once you've got all that, you can just hit save, and that should have your flow ready. And one last thing to make sure is we're just going to go back to the Slack home screen. In the OAuth and permissions section, you want to go to the scope section and you want to hit add app mentions.read. So this scope pretty much allows tells you what the app is allowed to do or not. So I'm going to hit view messages that directly mention the trigger agent. So that means you're going to have to tag the agent to message it. You can have it so that it reads all messages, or it can only read messages from some users. So it's really up to you, and you can sort of play around with that. But I'm going to hit that. And last thing you want to do is just hit install. So I'm just going to hit allow, and then that means my app has been installed onto Slack. There is one last thing that you do need to do in order to get it working. You go to the channel that you want to add it to. In this case, I've got a competitor research channel that I've created for this. Go edit settings, go integrations, and then underneath apps, you need to go add apps, and your application should show up over here. Right now, you might not actually see it instantly because it actually takes it a few hours for it to register. So what I'd suggest is you create the agent and come back maybe in 2 or 3 hours. I don't know why it takes Slack that long, but it does. But you should see your agent application in here, and you just need to go and click add or install. I'm not going to do that because I already got it. And that's pretty much it. With that, it should be working, and you should then be able to tag your competitor analysis agent and type in any message that you want and start doing your competitor analysis.
If you have a particular idea that you'd like me to build on, feel free to drop it in the comments, and I'll be sure to get to it soon. If you're interested in finding out how you can build an AI agent in Relevance AI, check out this video here where I've done an in-depth tutorial on how you can build an AI agent in Relevance AI step by step. Or if you're interested in learning how you can build different types of tools or what type of tools are required for an AI agent, be sure to check out this video where I've done a step-by-step tutorial on the different types of tools AI agents use. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.